All right, so I know that I always say that the energy of this month is so intense, but literally that's kind of the deck of cards that we've been dealt lately. So yeah, I'm gonna say it again. The February energies are extremely intense and we have a pileup happening in the sign of Aquarius. Now you do not have to be an Aquarius for this to impact you. So I put together 3 specific things that I feel like you guys must know about the astrological energies of February 2021. So stay tuned. Hello everybody, Yelena here. I wanted to sit down and do a little kind of informal video because I haven't been on in a little while and the energies of this month are crazy and I want to get into the habit of doing a monthly astrology report. So today we're going to start with all of these new idealistic, future forward thinking Aquarian energies that we're in right now. I have many visions, but it's been hard to execute them, of course, because of Mercury Retrograde. But I'm pushing through and I'm doing it anyways after trying to record this like 4 times now. So here we go. Hopefully this one sticks. But if you are new to my channel, my name is Yelena and I'm super stoked to have you here. And if you're not new and you're back, then welcome back. Thank you guys. So I post spiritual and astrological content on my channel. I'm really gonna start amping that up. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to tap that subscribe button below and I would be super happy to have you as part of this community. So anywho, we've got lots of crazy energy per usual since the beginning of 2020, basically. But we look like there's some positivity coming in spring. And I'm not saying any of this is super crazy negative, so I don't want to freak anybody out. It really just depends on your specific chart. So disclaimer, what I say here today, it's going to play out differently for everybody, really. I'm just kind of giving a collective reading of what I see in a traditional chart. So yeah. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. If you are somebody that is going through a big shift or you're trying to make sense of things and this resonates for you and you wanna go a little bit deeper, links to schedule an astrology reading with me below. But cool, we're gonna leave that at that. And let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll start with number 1. We have got Saturn square Uranus. So Saturn in the sign of Aquarius in a square with Uranus and Taurus. And if you don't know what any of that means, just hold tight because I'm gonna break it down and explain it to you in a more realistic sense. I like to label this transit growing pains. And I'm sure we're all, like everyone I know, including myself, is all feeling this right now in some way, shape, or form. So I know that you guys are all feeling it too. This transit happens about every 22 years in different signs. So it means it's kind of the same thing, but affecting different areas of life with different themes. So I'm going to show you guys in the chart right now, we've got Saturn right here in the sign of Aquarius. So here's that buildup that's beginning. And this is the chart on February 4th of 2021. And it is in a square, which is a 90-degree aspect with Uranus in the sign of Taurus right here, 3 signs away. So this is a major focus right now with everything going on. Now, the interesting thing is Aquarius and Taurus are both fixed signs. So regardless, it's that energy that's kind of like a rock. I don't remember what was that, Chevy, like a rock? But it's the energy that doesn't really like to move much. It doesn't like change. It doesn't want to be uprooted. It kind of wants to stay stable, persistent, doing what it's doing. It likes familiarity, right? Well, the familiarity is being thrown out the window because we got a lot of Aquarian energy over here. Aquarian energy is future focused. It's very idealistic. It's how can we do this better? How can we take something from the past and do it better? Or how can we leave the status quo, leave tradition, leave the structures, which are all Saturnine in topic, so that we can make them better and move forward. So lots of big visions, lots of goals. I think we're all kind of feeling that right now as well, but we're feeling limited and blocked in some way. Like there's just a barrier or restriction in some sense, and we've been feeling that for a while. So that energy is not new, right? It's very familiar. Almost as if you have one foot in this new life in the future and you've got one foot that's just like stuck in cement. You start to get your foot out of the shoe though, that's stuck in the cement. You can feel it wiggle. So you almost feel like you're being set free, but just not quite yet. You're still kind of feeling stuck a little bit. And these are the growing pains that I speak of. So this square, okay, that we have going on between Saturn, the planet of restrictions and boundaries and tradition and old structures. It also rules over karma and time. And we're not talking like quick time. We're talking things that we have to be very persistent and disciplined about. And then usually in the future, Saturn will reward us. So it's not that instant gratification overnight type of energy kind of thing. But that is squaring Uranus and Taurus, which is major change, upheaval, rebellious energy that's all about revolution and shaking up that status quo, shaking up the structures and the functions that were once set in place, right? So yeah, it's very uncomfortable type of energy, especially for people who don't like change. So if you're a fixed sign, which is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, then this might be a little uncomfortable for you. But that's okay, because it's pushing us in a direction that we probably wouldn't have voluntarily taken ourselves, okay? But it's important for our future and where we're headed moving forward. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, the first hit of Saturn in Aquarius square Uranus and Taurus is going to happen on February 17th, which is just about 5 or 6 days after the new moon is going to occur in the same clump of planets right here that we've been speaking of. All right, so if you want to think of Saturn in Aquarius as structured and coordinated social change, right? So all of these, it's been interesting to see like a lot of these riots and different concentrated efforts where people get together to fight for a cause or fight for a change. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that energy this year. You're just going to be feeling an overall sense of this as well inside of you. You're going to be sensing the need for independence and freedom. There might be some shakeups in your life or abrupt and unexpected change, which is because it's that direct hit to Uranus and Taurus. That Uranus is that shakeup energy, right? And it's directly connected with Aquarius because in modern times, Uranus was the ruler of Aquarius. In ancient times, Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius. So you can think of Uranus and Taurus as disruption and innovation to Taurus themes like finances or personal values and self-worth, or, you know, any material type of structures that bring us lots of comfort and stability, which could be our, you know, jobs that we've been in over the course of a long period of time, certain relationships, just things that really bring you comfort, that have been consistent in life. There could be disruptions to that. Like I said, disruptions to the status quo, disruptions to past foundations and structures. So anyways, we've got this desire for freedom seeking and spontaneity of some sort, which is in a major clash with this need for structure and stability. So basically, we try to move forward towards our ideals, towards our goals. We have this pull to like go in a different direction towards the future. But that pull and where we're seeing we want to move feels very ungrounded. It's like we're on unstable terrain. We're kind of like rocking back and forth. It's like, ooh, are we going to fall off the ledge? What's going to happen? It's very unknown. We don't know how it's going to play out, right? But also, when we try to go back to the old ways of doing things, the old rules, the old structures, whether we're returning to an old job that just doesn't quite feel right or in alignment anymore, or we try to do things the way that we always used to do them, or we return to old relationships with people that aren't quite in alignment with who we've become over the past couple years, especially over 2020, we realize that conforming to the old ways is just not working out for us anymore. So we're kind of in limbo. It's like this limbo state right now. Because a square aspect, a square, which is this 90-degree right here, is a frustration. It's a challenge that eventually will lead us to some sort of breakthrough. Inevitably, after, you know, some trials and tribulations, it's this tension in two areas of our life that's begging to be integrated. Okay, so it's like a conflict of interests of some sort. Now, this could result in things of the past, like things that we used to rely on, whether they be sources of income, people, whatever it might be. They are not really showing up for us in the same ways that they used to. You might notice that as a key theme. Also, I would like for you to look out for any resistance that you have to change, because with this upheaval and interesting shake-up energy of Uranus, any resistance that we have is definitely going to cause major blockage for us. So if we can try to surrender whatever spiritual practices that we have put in place to help with that, bringing in a sense of surrender and trust that is a divine order to whatever is taking place in life right now. And if we can just release our need to control and hold on so tightly to these things that are trying to be removed or trying to shift in some way, shape, or form, that is going to be best. And I know it's easier said than done, but it is possible. It is doable. And I just want you to know that with Saturn rules feigned appearances, which is that things look a certain way on the exterior, but they really could be something totally different underneath. So a lot of these things that might appear to be limitations or these shakeups that don't seem very fun or very exciting to us when they happen, could actually end up resulting in something that we would have never expected. And it could be for our best and most good, right? So just hang in there. I know this is tough energy, but we just have to learn to kind of roll with it, to flow with it instead of resisting, right? So a couple things I'd like for you to ponder. If you like to journal or, this might be helpful for you. How can you play a role in creating the social change that's needed in this world, or whatever social change is needed in your life? What causes are you passionate about? And what little steps can you take in your daily life, even though they might be small, to help create this change? And also, how can you best work with, or against, if need be, the personal boundaries and limitations in your life so that you can push forward towards achieving your goals? So just a couple little things to ponder here, but we're going to go ahead and move into number 2 of what you must know about these February astrology energies. So this is, I called it pile up because that's exactly what it is. It's a pile up of energy in Aquarius. So we've got those 6 planets that are all going to be conjoined in what's called a stellium. In order to have a stellium, there has to be 3 or more planets in a certain astrological sign. So this overqualifies, right? It makes it even more pivotal and concentrated because there are 6. So as you can see here, we've got good old Venus, which is the planet of love and harmony. It can also rule over finances and relationships and bringing things into a more cohesive unity where it stimulates our pleasure senses and makes us much more happy. So at least we've got good old Venus in there. And then we've got Saturn, that planet of limits, hard work, discipline, boundaries. We've also got the other benefic planet of Jupiter in there. Jupiter wants to bring us more wisdom. It wants to expand our lives. It wants to say yes, where sometimes Saturn is more apt to saying no. So we've got this energy of Jupiter that wants to expand our consciousness. It wants to help us evolve and grow. It wants to bring in more opportunities. And there's some really positive energy that's going to be occurring this spring, which I'll talk about in further videos with Jupiter. So he's playing a role in this whole dynamic too. We've also got the sun, which has a lot to do with our purpose. It has a lot to do with the ego and our passions in life. And it just really brings a central focus into the purpose and plotline of what is going on right now in general. It brings a lot of vitality. It brings a lot of life and energy to this whole dynamic. And then we've also got Mercury, which is currently in retrograde, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Mercury rules over communication, our thought processes, how we process information. It has a lot to do with the intellect and fast exchanges of information, of money, business transactions. It rules over e-commerce. So these are just a couple themes. Then we're also going to have the moon here on February 11th. So as you can see, major concentration of energies really bringing the focus in here. So what does this all mean? This all started with the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which was on December 21st in this Aquarius house. which was the beginning of this pivotal new change. It was like a new chapter, a new era in our lives that's just beginning. So this is all very promising energy. I've had a lot of people say, well, yeah, I noticed some changes, redirection or whatever, but nothing huge happened. We have to understand that with these energies, they are slower moving planets. This is something that's here to play out over the course of a longer duration of time. This is just the beginning of it. So we're starting to see it unfold, right? And it's interesting. That's why we like to talk about this, so we can play along in the co-creation process of its unfolding. A little background on Aquarius. Again, it's a fixed air sign. Air sign is all about communication. It's very mental. It's very social energy. And it rules over things like friendship, inventive and futuristic visions. It's all about innovation. How can we take old things and make them better? I think I kind of mentioned that a little bit at the beginning of the video. This could also have a lot to do with not doing things by yourself. It's like, even though we've got this social distancing going on, we've got all of these restrictions and limitations, we have the World Wide Web. We can still connect with each other in a certain way. So how can we collaborate and come together to create social change, to move in a new direction towards the evolution of humanity? It also rules over technological advancements. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that in the future to come as well. It is very rebellious energy. It could have a lot to do with like activism and taking a stand for certain topics that mean a lot to you. It rules over outsiders. So you may find yourself walking against the grain of the status quo or how society used to be in one way, shape, or form. I would say a lot of people who are in the astrology community are kind of doing that, because we're kind of fighting against the old ways of people not believing in astrology or thinking it's woo-woo or thinking it's evil in some way, where really astrology is starting to become huge, and everybody's starting to really connect with it and see that there are benefits in it, that there's something more to what just meets the eye or what they say about it. So it's that, outsider, rebellious type of energy where we're doing something different. We're kind of like leading the way to make change in the world. It's very humanitarian type of energy. Okay, so we've got all these planets in this area, and we're starting to feel it because society is starting to fight back against the old structures, the old ways of doing things, against the governments. The Capricornian Saturn energies, which we just exited out of, we've been in it all year of 2020, are really about old structures, corporations, governments, rules, and all of those things that have been very prevalent lately. And so another interesting thing about Aquarius energy is, in ancient astrology, we like to look at it in terms of the seasons. Now, that's not in terms of the weather, it's more in terms of the alternation of light and dark. So once you get into Aquarius season in late January and February, it's where darkness is still prevalent. So we are in the dark part of the year, but where light starts to prevail and light starts to increase. So you can look at that very symbolically. Like, we're in a time, we're in this Aquarian age where darkness still prevails. We still have got a lot of corruption. We still have a lot of negativity and darkness going on, a lot of division and things occurring in society, in our everyday lives. We can see it playing out not only in our personal lives, but on the world stage, right? But we can feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're starting to be called towards a more promising future where we can have these ideals and we see that things could possibly play out in a different way. We just don't know how yet, right? So we can start to see that light is beginning to take over. It's really helping us to disrupt tradition, disrupt the status quo for a better, more promising future. So I just want to give you 3 specific things about this Aquarius pileup. I'd like for you to just expect the unexpected. And like I said, it may be a feigned appearance. So be very careful about the way that something looks right now, because you never know how it might play out in the future. Just be open to new possibilities, new ways of doing things. If it's not playing out the way that you thought it would, try to release control, surrender, and just kind of flow with the way that life is taking you, right? I always like to really contemplate on the way that I'm handling certain situations. And a lot of times I've said to myself, like, stop trying to control everything. Just let it play out the way that it's supposed to play out. As long as you set your intentions the way that you would hope things to go, and you have goals where you'd like to move forward in the future, we don't always know how that's going to play out. So just follow it. Just allow it to lead you, right? And also, be prepared for old structures and old ways of doing things to fall away. We are going through this time where the old is trying to break off. And it might take a whole year of 2021 for us to really go through that process, but the beginning of it is starting now. And it will really start to supercharge on that February 17th date when those energies are concentrated. So you want to take note of what goes on around that area of time. Right? And then finally, there's going to be new collective efforts, new collaborations. There might be new opportunities that present themselves. I know I'm going to be on a couple different YouTube channels, and I'm already starting to work with other people on like bringing astrology, the tradition of astrology, out into the world. I'm going to be a TA on one of my astrology teachers' courses. So there's a lot of opportunities to really like take a new path, right? So keep an eye out for those opportunities for yourself as well. We want to make sure, and I just want you guys to know, don't be scared by this energy. Energy is neutral until it's directed. And that's why I keep saying to surrender and just kind of go with the flow now. Obviously having goals, having ideals, but kind of going with the flow, because as long as you're not holding on for dear life and you're not, opposed to changing life in any way, shape, or form, because we know that change is inevitable right now, then the energy will end up being more positive. So just remember, energy is neutral until it's directed. And finally, Mercury retrograde, which I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on because I have an entire video all about this Mercury retrograde, which I'll pop up on the screen right now. But I just labeled this number 3 as the cherry on top, because this Mercury retrograde just kind of helps us bring everything into perspective. It's a big slowdown. It's when the planet apparently stops and moves backward over all of these things that have been going on in January, or everything after the Great Conjunction, and it's going to retrace its path over all of those things, because there may have been things that we didn't know, or we need to refocus on or restructure, or certain areas where there's blocks that weren't removed that need to be before we can move forward in the fashion that we'd like to. Maybe some internal processing that needs to take place before we can move forward, or dealing with old issues that maybe we brushed under the rug and didn't quite finish. It's really a time to slow down and refocus and prepare for this upcoming beautiful shift that we have this spring, these very lucky and prosperous Jupiterian abundant energies that are on their way. Mercury retrograde began on January 30th, and it's going to go all the way until February 21st, and it's really taking part with this stellium in Aquarius. So basically, it's put in place to help us retrace our steps from all these beginning steps of the changes that were starting to occur throughout January, right? And it's going to help us restructure whatever needs to be restructured so that we can really set ourselves up for success, okay? So in conclusion, this stellium energy, it can be extremely frustrating, especially when we're not channeling it into anything properly. So if we really have no idea what we want to create in the future, we don't have things put in place, we're kind of just all up in the air, it can be a little bit more frustrating than usual. So look to where and what you might be holding on to a little bit tightly, where you might be resistant to change and shifts, maybe where you're trying to change, but maybe you're trying to do it in old, outdated ways that are no longer going to work for you. So this energy is very much requiring you to think outside of the box. So I urge you to take some time to slow down, to rest, to get some quiet time with yourself so that you can go into a state of contemplation and really focus on where life is drawing your attention to at this time. So if you are somebody who's constantly on the go, 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 I urge you, this is a very important time to kind of slow yourself down and think, do some pondering, okay? Because you do have the potential to set yourself up for success. Now, it's inevitable that things could happen that are outside of our control. That's how things always happen, right? But we have the control over how we operate from our emotions and from our willpower and from our intellect. We have control over that. It takes some practice, of course, but let's try to channel it towards a future ideal, okay? Towards something that we want to create or something we're already starting to create. will lead to a more positive future for us. And let's try not to allow these setbacks to really stand in our way of accomplishing it. So this energy will require you to be very resilient and persistent. So don't give up, keep moving forward. Remember, forward focus. I know there's things from the past that we're still kind of dealing with, but don't allow it to hold you back, okay? Keep moving forward. Resiliency is key, you guys. But anyways, I think this has gone on long enough. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, like I said, you can schedule a personal reading with me. I'll pop it in the description box below. My rates are super affordable. And if you benefited from this content, please tap the like button below. It really helps to get the channel into the YouTube algorithm, to let YouTube know that you guys liked the video, that you appreciated the content, so it can help more people to see it as well. And if you haven't done so already, tap the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know how these energies are affecting you, what you've experienced already, and what kind of ideals do you have for the future. I'd love to know what your goals are, what your visions are. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. And namaste. Peace.